Hello and welcome to this Hustle Castle video, and today we'll be looking at the Supreme Sorcery Festival and a couple of the additions that they've brought with the latest updates. This event is going to be a great event if you're looking to improve every area of your game, whether that's your hero, fighters or castle. This is actually one of the very few events that I'd actually recommend paying for the pass, so then you can be using additional tools at the same time. It does allow you to use one at a time, and you may have seen you can swap between these tools, but at the same time it's going to be much more efficient if you can use 2 or even 3 tools at the same time. Personally, if you was to look at the invitations from the store, I would personally go for the magic invitation to unlock that additional slot for your tools. You could go for the master's invitation for an additional 2, but personally I don't think that's going to be worth it considering the price is for me $17.50. For $9.49 though, you can certainly upgrade plenty areas of your game like I've already mentioned before, but that still does cost £9.49, so that's up to you if you think this event is worth it. But from previous experiences, you do earn a lot of things from this event, so I can actually say this one can be worth it if you can still put some time into the game. Unfortunately, it's not one of those cases where you can just buy the pass and you should just get everything that you want. You still need to play the game quite a bit, but at least you can do it in multiple areas of your game and still get some good rewards from it. When you're looking at your spells, it's not just a case of just going for the top legendary spell, because there are some certain things to consider. But before we talk more about this, let's have a look at some of the great items that you can get. Firstly, one of the best items I can see from this event would actually be this artifact called the Warlock's Chalice. Now this artifact removes all positive effects from a random enemy and dealing 300,000 pure damage to that person and stunning them for 2 seconds. Now for most people that damage is going to kill people instantly, and obviously if you're a lower throne room than level 10 then your number is going to be different, but either way this artifact is still going to be a great item to go for, not only because it is pure damage but because the damage is very high. The next item to also be considering to try and get is the Master of Illusions ring. This ring will almost guaranteed happen at least once per battle, and obviously because it's once in a while it means it could happen multiple times over a long period of time. When an enemy dies, it deals 120,000 magic damage to all enemies in a small radius around it, and also that dead enemy can't be resurrected for 4 seconds. Again, this is another burst of damage, and all you need to do is equip the ring on somebody that's most likely going to stay alive, and this could be a tank, it could be one of your archers, but just someone who can stay alive because the ring is going to be the one dealing the damage. Now if you're someone that's got a Dragonborn in your team, whether that's a combo or a full 6-piece, here's a particular item to look out for, and that is going to be the Star Map Totem. Once in a while, when the health of the owner of the totem drops below 15%, they restore 250,000 health back to themselves and removed 2 negative effects, and 5 of their next attacks can't be missed at the same time. So again, this is going to be an amazing item for anyone that has a Dragonborn in their team. Again, it doesn't matter of the combination that you've got them built. Either way, this protects them from dying, gives them 250,000 health, stops them from being stunned if that was the case of them being hurt, and then they can't miss their next 5 attacks, so that is a great combo. Now let's say you have got a full 6-piece Dragonborn, then this item is actually worth going for, called the Necromancer Hunter Gear. The reason why this is going to be a great item to go for is because this item can restore 150,000 health into the archer, and then this person goes into a frenzy, increasing all of their stats, whether that's armor, damage, health, dodge, it's all of it. So again, this is another great item for a 6-piece Dragonborn. However, if you do have a 4-piece and then 2-piece combo with your Dragonborn, this is another item to really consider. Most people with their Dragonborn combo use this particular item that removes negative effects for over 5 seconds, but if you can't buy that from the dragon, or if you're not able to get that for yourself for any reason, then this item is going to be a great choice for you. This still removes 2 negative effects, it doesn't have a continuous protection from it, but it still removes 2 of them, and the fighter gets a shield to absorb 200,000 damage of any type, so again that's going to help keep them alive. When the shield wears off, it does deal damage in a small radius around the armor, but I really wouldn't consider this as a bonus to really be looking out for, because the only people it's really going to affect would be assassins, or once they're the last person in your team, so that's really not going to make enough of a difference in my eyes, so just mainly focus on the first bit of gaining that shield and removing those negative effects. In combination with the totem, these two will make a really good combo, and the same goes if you have a full 6-piece archer set, then you can go for the Necromancer Hunter Gear, and again those two in combination are going to be really good. So let's say you want to gain these particular items. Now some people might think you just have to keep hitting that legendary top spell and eventually you might get them. Most of you have probably seen that that is not going to be the case. Whether you've bought a pass or you haven't, and let's just say you're doing it for free for now, when you click on the spell and then see at the bottom, that is obviously going to tell you what unique rewards you are going to get. Now this is obviously going to be different for a particular spell that you go for. So for example, the very top one is going to give you that really good artifact, so obviously you're going to want to try and do that until you can get that artifact. And as you scroll down the list, you can see the next one is going to be a crossbow and the archer armor. Then you go further down, you got the mage staff and again the mage armor, and that follows on for the next purple. And then when you start to work towards the blues, you get the pendant and then something for your castle, and again then you get something for your castle, and then you can get the star map totem. So basically as you follow along, there are going to be different things for each spell. So if there is a particular item that you want, again like this star map totem, I would actually be focusing this over other things first and then go between the items. I would only ever go for the legendary top spell once you've completed all the items that you want to get, because the worst thing can be you going for that top spell, have maybe 1 or 2 days left and try and get those items, and then you actually run out of time when they were the main things to get. The only other 2 things I really need to mention is to always be watching your ads when you get the chance, as that's going to give you a nice set of tools, and obviously when you get the pass then you're going to be unlocking a couple more quests, even up to 4 if you go for the Master's quest, but this is either way going to help you in earning all of the items that you want to be getting. And finally, the last thing to do with the quest, always remember to accept and send your friends resources, as this is such an easy thing to do, but if you haven't got time to play the game properly, at least try and do that, because you're still going to get a good amount of actual materials to get those spells that you want. So that's really everything to do with this event. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them below and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible, so then you can at least continue with your game how you want to play it. So just quickly, this next part was actually meant to be recorded, and unfortunately because I got to it late, it's not actually going to make as much sense, but at least you can be hearing the information of what I mean about these mini events and if they're even worth doing. So I'm going to keep this part in, even though you won't be able to see it on your screen, but that's why I'm leaving this here. There are a couple of other things I wanted to talk about, and firstly, they have now got an events calendar, which is going to be somewhat useful as long as they keep it consistent. The reason why I say like that is because sometimes they put maintenance on, sometimes they push an event back, so this might not be fully accurate of when the event is coming out, but at least it gives you a very good guide of what is happening. So for example, you might be able to see the sorcery tournament is not that far away, and that's because they've added these somewhat mini events to basically change up the gameplay and make it a little different. Right now, the Mad Sorcerer event is out right now, and then what you can do is click over to the Mad Sorcerer tab on the very left, and then this will show you a new list of things that you need to do to basically unlock some cool items. These are going to be fairly easy to do until you get to the very top, but I really wouldn't consider paying for a golden bonus, as I just don't think 289 is really going to be worth it for these extra little things. Either way, you're going to be gaining things through the event, and I personally don't think that these items on this list are worth paying for. The chest itself seems to give you something, but I really wouldn't consider it to be worth £2.89, so these mini events are going to be worth trying to complete, but without paying for any of the passes. So the last 2 things I wanted to talk about within this video, and one of them is a Titan, but I'll just briefly go over it because I think most people don't really care about it in particular. This new Titan is called Peepers, and it's a fire range archer that's going to be dealing magic damage, so whether that makes it any good for yourself, I don't know. The actual legendary Titan's ability is pretty standard, I'm afraid. If we look at the very bottom, it can activate every 10 seconds, and it removes 2 negative effects from each warrior in the squad. If that was to be for your whole team, then I could really see this being a good thing, because there are some Titans that can affect the whole team, so if this was the case then that would have been a much better Titan to go for. But because it's only to do with warriors, do we really care about it? Probably not. It could be useful for your djembe, but I still think there are better Titans to be using for that instead. The only reason why I could see this being useful is that it can help you in the tower if you are struggling to complete it, and that's where you can actually swap your squad around to really suit who you're actually fighting, and the same can go for the Colosseum when you're really trying to squeeze out those last few rankings before Sunday hits, and then you can get as many of those might stones as possible. So this is the last thing they've added to this update that is worth talking about, and that'll be the Chrono Mage's set. This set in short should be seen as a supportive mage, but let me talk about one of its main abilities. Once in a while, the Chrono Mage suspends the enemy of the greatest damage in time for 6 seconds. That enemy can't can't attack, use abilities, take damage or even restore health. After that time, the Chrono Mage deals 300,000 magic damage to this target for 6 seconds, and the effect will end sooner if the suspended enemy was the last one that remains on the battlefield. So this basically means if they have a Dragonborn, a Shadow Fighter, then that person will be suspended in air for 6 seconds, meaning they can't really do anything and it can't help their team out while the battle takes place. The one way to counter the Chrono Mage would be to either use an Illusionist set or actually have a Shadow Fighter in your team to have more damage per second than your Dragonborn. That way the Dragonborn stays on the field, or if this Chrono Mage was to become a main set in people's teams, then even using a Shadow Fighter in your team to really counter what this person's going to do. The Shadow Fighter would then be the person that's suspended, while your Dragonborn is dealing way more damage to the enemy, because the Shadow Fighter will actually have more damage per second in general as long as you're giving them some gems and stats at the same time. The only other major benefit that Chrono Mage's set is that once in a while the Chrono Mage sends 3 allies back in time. They'll have fully restored health, their weapon, ring, amulet and totem abilities will all be reset and ready to use as soon as they come back. This will give you a burst of damage or abilities just in general, and this is going to be a great way of winning the fight back if you can bring 3 people back in time. This is obviously going to be very specific on which fighters it takes back in time and bringing them back to the battle, but at the same time typically 3 fighters out of your whole team, one of them are going to have some good abilities, so either way this is still going to be a good effect for even weaker teams. But again, this set can be countered at least with its main damage by using either Illusionist or a Shadow Fighter, so just see what other people use first if you're not planning on using this set, and if they start to, at least you know how to counter it. But if you want to use it yourself, then you know that you're actually going to be helping out your team for the long run and suspending the enemy with the greatest damage, and just hope that they don't know about the countering method. So yes, that is going to be everything with today's video. We're not going to be talking about the actual dragon, but if you have any questions, again leave them down below and I'll let you know if those are good particular items to go for. And yes, good luck with the event. I hope everybody gets what they want, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.